This video will show you how to replace the master cylinder on this Toyota Corolla. This will be located along the driver's side of the engine compartment. Let's get into it. Okay friend, let's get started on our job. A quick note, when we do this master cylinder, we will have to bleed the brakes. It's always a good idea to make your way behind each wheel and make sure each one of the bleeder screws opens as it should before proceeding. We're making our way over to the master cylinder. Just go ahead and wipe down that cap. We can remove that. Just a quick inspection. We'll set that aside. Underneath that cap, you're going to find that there's a small screen inside this area. We can use a glove finger to remove that. Now we're going to continue inside this area. You're going to find a rectangular port. You can stick a small hose in here and use a fluid extractor to remove as much fluid as possible from inside of the master cylinder. Now I have my fluid extractor. I'm going to take this and bring it down and through the port. Be careful not to get any brake fluid on any painted surface. It is corrosive and will cause damage. Now, as I mentioned, brake fluid is corrosive, and there's still going to be fluid inside of the master cylinder. We want to have a collection receptacle or something to collect the fluid underneath the master cylinder. I'm going to use some absorbent pads. You can use a small bucket if you happen to have one. Now, prior to removing any lines from the master cylinder, we're looking towards the rear of the master cylinder and you're going to find your electrical connector for your level sensor. It has a locking tab. We'll just go ahead and press that in and disconnect this. For that, you can either use a small pocket screwdriver or even do it by hand, whatever's easiest for you. A thorough inspection for corrosion. Assuming that looks good, you can set that wiring harness aside. Now it's time to start removing our brake lines. You can see one along the front here. The second one's going to be located a little bit further back towards the passenger side of the master cylinder. I'm going to start with the forward line. Once I have this disconnected, fluid may come out of this area. I'll continue with my fluid extractor to remove as much fluid as possible. I'm going to break the line free with a 10mm flare wrench. After that, we can switch to a short wrench if necessary. When you're turning your brake line fittings, you want to confirm you're not twisting your brake lines in any way. That can cause damage or a brake fluid restriction. Either way, it can be extremely dangerous. Okay, let's get our extractor. Just going to take this extractor. After evacuating as much fluid as possible, let's go ahead and start removing that final brake line from the rear of the master cylinder. Same tools, 10mm. Just press it on. Once again, we're just making sure that the line is not twisting and getting damaged in any way. Now that we have that line loose, you're going to find that you really can't remove the line from the master cylinder without flexing it and potentially damaging it. So what we're going to do next is move along to our two 12mm mounting nuts. You can see them along the back side of the master cylinder. The one on the passenger side not only holds the master cylinder to the brake booster, but it also holds the junction block and a bracket in place. Let's start removing that side first with a swivel head 12mm socket. With that mounting nut out of place, we'll continue on with an angled pick. I'm attempting to remove the brackets from this stud. There's one. And there's the other. The passenger side is fully dislodged. Let's move over towards the driver's side. We don't have any brackets to contend with, just a 12mm mounting nut. After that, we should be able to slide this out of place. Now we're going to grab onto the master cylinder, attempt to remove it from the vehicle. It's coming out through this area. We'll take hold of the master cylinder. We're going to attempt to give it a wiggle. I'm pulling it straight out and away. There we are. We just have a little bit of vacuum pressure holding that in place. There it is, friend. The next thing we'll do is spray some parts cleaner directly on a clean rag, and we're going to clean the mounting point on the brake booster. Okay, friend, let's prepare our brand new master cylinder for installation. Clearly, it comes with no fluid in the master cylinder. We need to make sure it's prepped. You're going to find with your master cylinder, it came with bleeder hoses. Each hose should have an adapter. Slide the hose onto the adapter. Once you have both hoses prepared, we're making our way along the top of the master cylinder next. Remove your brand new cap. Under that, remove your screen. Continuing on, we're taking each of our two hoses. We want the ends that do not have the adapters. Those are going to slide through that rectangular port in that master cylinder, and we're attempting to bring the hoses down approximately this far as possible. Essentially, they need to be under the fluid level when we do fill this. We'll go one hose at a time, sliding it in, and then we're going to align the adapter with the port on the master cylinder itself. You can see a tiny hole in there. That's where the adapter needs to fit. Line it up, press it in. Now that I have it lined up, I'm confirming it's properly secured. I'm pressing it as hard as possible, but I definitely do not want to break this. When we do go to bleed this, we do not want the adapter to come out. Next hose, same process. Double check each one of your hoses prior to continuing. Now it's time to fill the master cylinder with clean .3 or .4 brake fluid. When we fill this, let's try to make our way up towards this maximum line. Essentially, we need to make sure we're above the ends of those hoses that are inside of the reservoir throughout this entire process. Top it off as necessary. It'll just take a short while for that fluid to make its way in. All right, so as you can tell, we've got plenty of fluid in here. Continuing on, I'm using a brass dowel. You can also use a wooden dowel if necessary. We want to press on the very far end of the master cylinder here. This is where the rod from your brake booster is going to go through, and press this every time you step on the brake. That'll be forcing fluid from inside of the reservoir down through this area. As the fluid makes its way from the reservoir down in here, it's also going to make its way up and through each one of these tubes as necessary. We're going to continue the bleeding process until we see only clean fluid making its way through with no air bubbles. Top off the fluid as necessary along the way. Slow and steady wins the race. Now the next thing we're going to do prior to removing our apparatus is of course put a collection receptacle under this area. So when we do remove these hoses, fluid will make its way out. We want to collect and recycle that fluid. Now the first thing I always like to do is remove my hoses from up top. We're going to hold them up high and we'll continue on with our screen and our cap along the top. Now as we remove our hoses from each one of these ports, let's continue on with the blue caps that came with the master cylinder. Just go ahead and slide those right into those ports. We'll clean up any brake fluid residue from the master cylinder prior to bringing it over towards the vehicle. I don't want to use any type of cleaner or detergent. Nothing can make its way into the braking system. A clean rag will do. Now, prior to bringing the master cylinder down into the brake booster, I always like to add some lubricant along my sealing O-ring. As we bring this down and we attempt to align it, we also want to make sure that we're aligning our rearward port with its line. Now we're looking inside the brake booster as we make our way in. We can see the rod that needs to slide into the very end of the master cylinder, the place that we were using the dowel for the bleeding process. We're bringing this into position, aligning it. As I mentioned, we want to make sure that we have our brackets aligned. We're also making sure that we also align that line. We'll remove the blue cap from our rearward line port and start that line in. Typically, you can start the line in by hand. You may have to use a wrench. Whatever you do, make sure you don't cross-thread it into the wrong positioning. Okay, I've got this started in. It does not feel like it's cross-threading. Now I've got that line started in. Let's continue on with our bracket for our junction block. We'll slide that onto the stud. We'll continue on with the outer bracket as well. And we can continue on tightening that line once everything's mounted here. We'll just press that master cylinder in all the way up against the brake booster. We should be able to get this bracket in place. Get the outside bracket on there as well. Just flex things as necessary. Should slide on. Okay. Get that started on there. Now let's install our mounting nuts. Get the other one here. Slide that on the opposite side. They're started on. Snug them up. Once I have those snug, I'm going to torque them to 25 foot-pounds. Let's get that next one. We're back to our line. Once you have that bottomed out with your open end wrench, use a flare wrench. Confirm it's secured in place. We don't want to have a brake fluid leak. Double check to make sure there's no movement from your brake line. Now it's time to install the next brake line right along the front area. Same process, just go ahead and remove that plug, start in the fitting, and snug it up. Now let's get that flare wrench on there. Make sure it's tight. Clean any mess in this area. After cleaning any mess in this area, it's time for the level sensor wire connector. Line it up, press it in. Once you press it in, listen for an audible click, a light tug confirming it's secured in place. Now we can remove that master cylinder cap. We'll top off the master cylinder with our clean .3 or .4 brake fluid. Reinstall your cap. Now we can pause up under the hood. We're going to remove our wheels, we have to start bleeding the brakes, starting at the passenger side rear. Now we're on the passenger side rear. Just behind our drum brakes, we're going to find our bleeder screw, which leads to our wheel cylinder. We have our collection receptacle under this area. We're going to start bleeding the brakes. For this, I'm going to be using an 8mm for each one of my bleeder screws. To bleed the brakes, it's easiest if you have a second person. The second person will be inside of the passenger compartment. We're going to ask them to pump up the brake pedal till it feels firm. Once they're holding it, they're going to let us know, and we're going to open up our bleeder screw. Fluid will make its way out of the wheel cylinder bleeder screw. When that happens and it stops, we want to make sure we close the bleeder screw, and we're going to repeat this process until we have only clean brake fluid making its way out, no air. Now we have our second person inside of the vehicle. Go ahead and pump up the brakes, please. All right, we're holding, so I'm going to open this up, and we're paying attention at the very tip of the bleeder screw here. Let's close that. Go ahead and pump, please. Go ahead and pump. Now I did see a little bit of air making its way out of there, so we need to continue this process. Go ahead and pump, please. Lots of air. Go ahead and pump. Go ahead and pump. Now, as you can see, we still have a little bit of air making its way out of here, so we're just going to continue this process. Go ahead and pump, please. That's looking better. Go ahead and pump. Tiny air bubble on that one. Go ahead and pump. That one looks good. Let's go ahead and do this one more time on this side to confirm we have no air on this brake. Go ahead and pump, please. Just close this off. You can release, thank you. At this point, we've fully bled this braking system on the passenger side rear. We need to clean up our mess, so once we're done, we can confirm that we have no leaks. Once you're done in this area, you're making your way to the driver's side front next. Now we're on the driver's side front. As you can tell, this looks a lot different. We're dealing with the caliper now. The front caliper has a bleeder screw on the inboard side. We're using our 8mm, and we're repeating the process. We have our second person inside of the passenger compartment. Go ahead and pump up the brake pedal, please. Let's get our wrench on there. Go ahead and pump. Go ahead and pump, please. Go ahead and pump. Now this is looking good. Let's just confirm that we have only clean brake fluid making its way out of this brake. Go ahead and pump again, please. That's perfect. I'm just going to close this off. Just as before, you want to make sure that your bleeder screw is properly closed and clean your mess. After that, you're making your way up to the master cylinder. Now, it's important to stop at the master cylinder after bleeding the second brake so you can top off the fluid. We don't want to run this dry. Go ahead and open your cap, make sure the screen's in place, and top it off. You can see the maximum line up along the top here. We'll reinstall the cap. At this point, I've shown you how to bleed the rear brakes and the front brakes. You need to make your way to the driver's side rear. Bleed that braking system, clean your mess, and then you're going to the passenger side front. Go ahead and bleed that caliper as well. Once you have all the brakes bled, you're back at the master cylinder to top it off one last time. We're back under the hood at the master cylinder after bleeding the driver's side rear and the passenger side front. We need to top off that brake fluid one last time. We can see that we're low. Bring it up towards that maximum line, reinstall your cover, make sure it's properly secured in place. Okay, friend, we finished our installation. We've obviously bled all of our brakes and cleaned our mess. We're going to double check for leaks. After that, the torque for each one of your wheels is 76 foot-pounds. Pump up the brake pedal one last time and take your vehicle for a road test. Thanks for watching.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.